Okay, here's your second assessment over rational expressions. In this one, you get to use the Papa Math calculator on the LCD. Okay, so we better get that up. But I don't use it for multiplication because I don't need a common denominator. Okay, with multiplication, it's a three-step process. Done, done, done. Okay. Again, so that doesn't get a parentheses because there's no adding and subtracting within the 7x. Now this definitely does, this does, and this does. So 7x just transfers. Now it's on top, so remember it's on top. And then the other thing I have on top is x to the second minus 11x plus 30. And I will be factoring that. And there's three terms, so I do GCF and the t-chart. GCF, no negative in front, you don't have x and everything. 1, 11, and 30 is no. So I take 1 times 30, and that is positive 30. Sum of 11. No. No. 3 plus 10 is not 11. 4 is a decimal. How about 5 and 6? Yep, that's 11. Okay, and again, remember your 11's minus, so you need a minus on 6, and sum means they'll be the same sign, so minus 5. Okay, now a equals 1x squared, so it'll just be 2 parentheses, so I go x minus 5 minus 6. And there's no GCF, so I now cross this out. It's on top, so I replace it with x minus 5 times x minus 6. Open that up a little bit so I can get common factors. 2x minus 10, got to take a look at that. There are two terms, so that would be GCF and DOPS. GCF, no negative. You do have, you don't have x, but you do it. You can divide them by 2, so the greatest common factor is 2. That becomes 1x minus 5. That's not a difference of perfect squares. It is most definitely not. So I'm going to have 2 times 1x minus 5. Don't forget to write the 2. So I replace this with 2 times x minus 5. Okay, and then x to the second minus 6x. Sorry, this is a third on this one. Okay, so it would be GCF and DOPS. Kind of unorganized in my note taking. GCF, you got x on both of them, and that's it. So x comes out, and then go divide by x. And that's 1x minus 6. It's not a difference of perfect squares, though. Okay, so I replace this with x. Remember, your GCF comes out, and x minus 6. Okay, now you can look at getting rid of some of your parentheses. So x minus 5 are out, and so are the x minus 6s. Okay, so I don't have any parentheses left. So now I go outside. You got a 7x, and a 2 times x be 2x. Now simplify that. You can get rid of your x's completely, and the answer is 7 over 2. Okay. Okay, now the next problem is another multiplication problem. And there's no adding and subtracting within that, none within that, no plus minus within that, no plus minus within that. So we're going to NA this first step. Okay, now I just look at, I will have no parentheses. Okay, so my outer, I just combine the top outers and the bottom outers. So I got 7, not really timesing it by anything. X squared times x, x third, and then y to the third. Then at bottom we have a 14. We want to lead off with that. And then x second. It's the only x I have. And then y and y to the fifth is y to the sixth. Now you need to simplify that like you did up here. Now when you have x third, x second, the 7 and 14, you can reduce those by 7, divide them. So that's a 1 and a 2. So I'll have a 1 and a 2. X second goes away, and I take 2 away from 3, and that's to the first. So it'll be x or x to the 1. And y third would go away. And this 6 becomes y to the third. Now y to the third's on bottom. So there we have it. Pretty quick problem because I don't have to do all the factoring in the first step. Okay, solve the equation. Now how many ratios do you have? You got 1, 2. So 2 ratios. Whenever I have that, I'm going to use the A, B, C, D method of solving it. Okay? So I know that, and I make 2 parentheses on each side of the equation. I know that if I take A times B, that will always equal C times D. By law, it has to. So A will be 1x minus 1, and B will be 9, and C will be 3x, and D will be 4. So 1x times 9 is 9x, and 9 times 1 is 9. And then 3x times 4 is 12x. So there's only one answer to this because your x's are both to the first power. Now get them on the same side. It's not. I would not have to do any factoring or anything like that. So negative 9 equals 3x. Divide by 3, divide by 3. That ends up being negative 3. Okay, pretty quick one there. Now the next one. I'm solving the equation for x, but I have 3 ratio lines, so 3 ratios. When there are 3, you need to put an LCD. You'll have to figure that, and then you're going to draw 3 longer fractions because those fractions need to change, okay? We need to get them all have the same bottom right there. Okay, now you got to put parentheses where they belong and then see if any of them can be factored, okay? Parenthesize there. No, no, and there. So I drop my 12, and beneath it is a parentheses that possibly could be factored, and it can be. That's an obvious DOPS. You have minus 1 times 1, x times x. And if that would have been 3 terms there, I would have went to the scratch paper and did a GCFT. Okay, these will just stay the same. And 3x. Now, x plus 1, I mean, it's got a plus in it, but I don't think there's a GCF, and it's not a difference of perfect squares, so that will just remain the way it is. Okay, so denominator, you order your parentheses you have on bottom. You got x plus 1, you have x minus 1, and you have an outer 1, but that I don't care about that, okay? And then I have another x plus 1. As long as it's 1, okay? If it would have been a 3, I would have to do outer 3 and fix that. So x plus 1, I've got 1 on the first, 0 on the second, and 1 on the third. So the 0 needs an x plus 1. Bring it to the top as well. Okay, x minus 1s, I have 1, 0, and 0. So these last two need to get another x and x minus 1. Okay, so now the bottoms are all, for intents purposes, the same. Having that 1 there. If it's any number but a 1, you have to deal with it. But if it's a 1, we can eliminate it. Okay, now, I could be a real butthead here, sorry. And multiply 2 times x, 2 times 1, and then have to FOIL 2x plus 2 with this, and then add a 12 in there. But I'm going to use my Papa Math calculator on this side, okay? I don't want you putting in equals. You need to show your work down here, okay? So 12 plus 2, and then parentheses x plus 1, close it. Parentheses x minus 1. When you get to the equal sign, you need to just punch that in, hit calculate. So I get 2x to the second power plus 10. Okay, now let's see what the other side says. Okay, it's pretty easy. It's going to be 3x squared minus 3x, but it's just simple distributive property. Or x minus 1. Yep, 3x squared minus 3x. Now this one ain't so simple to solve because you got a second power x and a first power x, so there's two answers, but with these different powers of the x, you're going to have to move everything to one side so you can set up your factoring. So I subtract 2x squared, and that would go under my 3x squared, and I would minus 10. Doesn't really go with anything, so over here. So I get 1x to the second minus 3x minus 10 equals 0, and that's three terms. So that would be GCF and T. So GCF, negative, no. You got x and everything, no. No GCF. So 1 times negative 10 is negative 10, searching for a difference of 3. There it is, okay. So my 3 is minus, so we're going to have minus 5, and if it's a difference, they got to be the opposite, plus 2 minus 5. And A equals 1x squared. Okay, and there you have it, okay. So x plus 2 could equal 0, x minus 5 could equal 0. That's negative 2. And positive 5. So with two ratios, you do the ABCD. But if you got 3, you're going to have to do the LCD and set up your new fractions. Okay, number 6. So far I've made 30 out of 40 serves in tennis. How many consecutive serves do I have to do to raise my average of made serves to 80%? Now, with averages, we're going straight to ratios. I don't even do any side boxes, anything like that. So I've got 80%, and that's over 100%. And so far I've made 30 of 40. Well, that's 75%. So I need to add more to what I make, but then that also automatically adds more to how many I attempt. So again, there's only two ratios in this problem, so the A, B, C, and D is going to get the job done for us. Okay, so I take A, 30 plus 1x, and I'll times that by 100. C, that'll be 80, and I will times that by 40 plus 1x. Okay, so 30 times 100 is 3,000 plus 100x. 80 times 40 is 3,200 plus 80x. And the x's are like terms, just get them on the same side together. Don't need to factor if you only have one power of x. Okay. 20x plus 3,000 equals 3,200. Then I minus 20x. Or no, I don't, sorry. I minus 3,000. So 20x equals 200, divide by 20, and that's 10. So x is 10. So you got to make 10 serves. Okay, 3 more in this one. Okay, this problem I end up with a weird answer. Just go with it. 2 speed skaters travel for the same amount of time. The first speed skater travels a distance of 9 kilometers, while the second speed skater travels a distance of 8 kilometers. The first skater travels 4.38 kilometers per hour faster than the second one does. For how long did the skaters race? Okay, so they want to know how long they race for, and they race for the same amount of time, so there'd really be only one answer, okay, and hours would be that. Okay, so I've got hours and kilometers. X is assigned to hours, Y to kilometers, so the appropriate rate of change would be kilometers per hour. And the only kilometers per hour I see is 4.38, but it says faster, okay? So that doesn't mean. So what that means is I want to put, they're still unknown, okay, both of them. So S plus 4.38 and then just S. I like to use S because it means speed. Okay, so there's two of them, but the lines really don't do me a lot of good because with 0 hours I don't go any kilometers. Okay, that is direct variation, and we just need two ratios to solve it. Okay, and how you set up the ratios, the same amount of times. So we know the times are the same, so that means if I take their distance divided by the speed, that's going to come out to be the same. Okay, so the distances I know, okay, I know we have 9 kilometers, so just get that out and put 9 over it. And this one I have 8. Okay, and the S's, I know that one of them's S, good. One of them's S plus 4.38, so, and that would be this one. Okay, and then there's two ratios, so I go A, B, C, D with that. And yeah, there's an easier way to solve this, but yeah. A is 9, and B is S, so 1S. C is 8, and D is 1S plus 4.38. Okay, so that's going to be 9S on that side. That's going to be 8S plus, take 8 plus 4 times 4.38, and I get 35.04. Then I subtract the 8S. That's 1S. Okay, now that's not the answer. That's your speed, not the hours. To find the hours, you replace your S's with 35.04. And they should be the same, okay? So I take 8 divided by 35.04. Okay, weird answer, I know. And then I'm going to take 34.04 plus 4.38. Now remember, 39.42, now I got to divide 9 by 39.42. And they are the same, okay? So I'm going to round the 0.22 up to 0.23, and that's a fine answer. It just means it's less than half an hour, about a quarter of an hour, okay? If you really want to know how many minutes, you take it times 60. Now, another way you can get the answer is to find the differences in the distance traveled, so that would be 1. And you would divide that by the speed that he gained on him every hour. It's going to be less than 1, so 4.38. So 1 divided by 4.38, boom. Okay. Okay, working together, you and your friend can seal your one driveway in 4 hours. Your neighbor can seal a driveway twice as fast as you. How long would it take to seal the driveway working separately? So how long? That means you're finding the hours. Now, there's actually two different ones because they would not be working. It doesn't take them the same time. One goes faster than the other. Okay, so I've got hours and driveways. X is hours, Y is driveways, so per driveways per hour. Yeah, I don't have that, okay? Don't know it, and I don't really care to know it because you can draw 2 lines or 1 line. It's not going to matter because with 0 hours, you won't get any of the work done, so that's direct variation. Now, this problem needs 3 ratios because we add their separate, what they can do separately, and that equals what they can do together. Okay, I'm going to write that because I think it's important. So separate, together. Okay, remember to put your hours on the bottom. So when they work together, they can do 1 driveway in 4 hours. Remember, the hours always goes on bottom. Now, if they work separate, they'd still have to get the 1 driveway done. I just don't know how long it would take to do it, but I know one of them's twice as fast. Twice is not x plus 2. That's more than. Twice is 2x and x. Okay, now as we said, we have 3 ratios, so I'm going to put LCD right there and then make my 3 new ones. Okay, nothing really needs a parentheses, so I just can drop everything down the way it is. Whoops, my bad. No, yeah. Okay, in LCD, I don't have any parentheses, but I do have outer x. Remember, you don't write 2x and x. All those x's you see are outside, so it's outer x. I also have an outer 2 and an outer 4. You're going to end up with all sorts of problems if you try to say x and 2x as separate amounts. Outer x, outer 2, outer 4. Okay, so outer x, well, I've got 1, 1, and 0. So we need to put an outer x here and on top. Outer 2, I've got 1, 0, 0. Okay, so these last two need a 2. And then outer 4, I've got 0, 0, 1. Okay, so okay, now that the bottoms are all the same, we can forget them, and you shouldn't need Papa Math for this. It's just 4. 1 times 2 times 4 is 8, and then 1 times 2, 2x. So 12 equals 2x, and then I can just divide by the 2. So that's 6. Okay, so 6 hours. What you did there is find the faster guy, and the other guy's twice as long. Okay, so times by 2, and that's 12. Okay, then we're going to look at this gem dandy. An airplane flies 1,000 miles to its destination with the wind. When it flies back, it goes against the wind. In still air, the plane can fly 200 miles per hour. Find the speed of the wind. The trip there and back took 15 hours. Find the wind speed. Okay, so the wind speed is mph. And we're going to use this chart because we got there and back. When you're doing like wind velocity and stuff like that, you're always going to want this chart. Okay, so what's the distance one way? 1,000. And back is the same thing. Okay, the distance would not change, and that gives me a total of 2,000. I don't really ever use that, but it's good to know. Okay, the speed of the plane is 200, but you got to understand, with wind, you would go faster by the wind speed, which I don't know, and against it, I would go slower. And that's kind of irrelevant. Okay, now the time. The only time I see is 15 hours, but that's there and back, so that's total. And no, it's not 7.5, 7.5. You can't just divide that by 2 because it's going to take me longer when I go against the wind than when I go with the wind. Okay? So the only thing you can really do is set your distance over your speed because that's what time equals. So 1,000 over 200 plus x, and then 1,000 200 minus x. Okay, now remember, this 15 is on top. I can't stress that enough. Okay. So I write my equation. I'm actually going to put a 1 under that because I think that's important. Okay, so this plus this equals this. So that's 3 ratios. I want to draw 3 new ones. And I'll do my LCD configuration up here. These would be parenthesized because they have pluses and minuses. Nothing else would, so nothing's really going to factor here. Okay, so 1,000, and then 200 plus x, 1,000, 200 minus x, and then 15 over 1. Okay, so LCD, I've got a parentheses of 200 plus x, a parentheses of 200 minus x, and outer 1 is irrelevant, okay? Any other outer number we got to look at, but not 1. So plus x, 1, 0, 0. So we better go 200 plus x, 200 plus x. Okay, 200 minus x, 0, 1, 0. So 200 minus x, 200 minus x. Oops, sorry, I forgot that one. I got to bring in 200 plus x to that one. And a 200 minus x. Okay, get that out of there. Now I go to my Papa Math, okay? So I will enter this side of the equation in, and then this side in. Okay, so what do I have? I have 1,000, and then 200 minus x, okay? Plus 1,000, and then 200 plus x. I got 400,000. Then the other side goes in. So 15, 200 plus x, and 200 minus x. Negative 15x to the second power plus 600,000. Okay, now all you have is the x to the second, so you don't need to factor, you just get that by itself. You need to undo the addition of 600,000 by subtracting it. So that's negative 200,000. And then divide by negative 15. Going to get a decimal, I'm going to round it to a whole number. $13,333. And then I have to find the square root of that. Now, I don't care about the plus negative on a story problem. Okay, the positive is just what I want. That's pretty high wind speed. 115. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, that's what happens when I make up the wind speed problems. I've always struggled to make those up, okay.